Today's section is 3 true Halloween author series by Mad Tom's Books. Like. The link to the video will be in the description below. Go and check them out. So let's into this section 3, 2, 1.
This happened a few years ago on Halloween. I'm 28 years old, and most people in my friend group get together for a Halloween party the weekend of Halloween. On this year, Halloween was on a weeknight, so our party was later in the week. That meant I didn't have anything going on Halloween. I live in a smaller house and was just planning on hanging out and giving out candy to trick-or-treaters all night. By the time it got to be about 5 o'clock, the first trick-or-treaters arrived.
Yes.
I would say my neighborhood is pretty average. I don't get a crazy number of people, but a steady amount throughout the night. As time went on, the sun set a little after 6 o'clock or so. It was around this time when I was in my living room and heard a knock on the front door. It was a strong and powerful knock. Most people rang the doorbell, so I really noticed this. I was a little bit slow to get up and get to the door.
Why was he knocking on the door? If he a trick-or-treater, he should ring the doorbell, so why knock on the door?
And by the time I did, nobody was there.
What the?
I felt bad because some kid must have missed out on getting candy from me, and I meant to answer the door a little bit sooner. I looked around to see if I could see anybody walking down the street, but I didn't. After that, I went back inside. I got a few more kids at the door over the next hour or so. And once again, there was another loud knock on the door after that. I was much quicker to answer the door, but again, nobody was there.
What the?
Now I was beginning to think that I was being pranked or something.
There's nobody there. What the? Okay, nobody knock on the door.
When it got later in the night, it happened yet again. It was the only time people knocked on the door, too. Everybody else would just ring the doorbell, so I knew when I heard the knock, whoever had done it would be gone by the time I answered. The last trick-or-treaters came by at about 8:45 or so, and by 9 o'clock, things were really quiet. At that point, I turned my lights off, signaling that I wouldn't want any more trick-or-treaters. It was about 9:30 when I heard the knocking yet again. I ran to the door and opened it as fast as I could. Still, nobody was there. I was pretty annoyed by this now.
Okay, there's knocking on the door, but there's nobody there. What the? That's a little creepy. Or it could be a ding dong ditch. Yeah, or it was knocking on the door, so it's easy called knocking in this. Oh, I don't know.
Who would have time to repeatedly knock on my door over the span of 3 or 4 hours just to run away before I could answer? I left my house and took a couple of steps out into my yard looking all around. I didn't see anybody. I called out asking who was there, but of course got no response. I shook my head and started walking back into my house. When I reached my front step, I suddenly heard a noise in the bushes directly in front of my house and to my right. When I looked, I was just in time to see somebody emerge from the bush and was headed straight for me. This person was a grown man, and I had never seen him before. I had maybe 10 feet between him and the front door. I ran as fast as I could, pretty much just as a reaction. When I reached the door, I swung it back open and got inside. I closed the door right behind me, and it closed right on the man's arm who was trying to get inside after me. This was just my screen door, so it didn't hurt him too bad, but it was enough to cause him to remove his arm from the door and back outside. This gave me enough time to slam the larger door and lock it, right before he opened the screen door and tried coming into my house. I screamed that I was calling the police, and then got my phone out of my pocket to do so. I looked out the window, and I watched the man running away through my yard and then down the street, but I called the police anyways. When they arrived, I told them all I could, and this was thankfully enough to keep the man away, because I never saw him again.
Oh, good. Number 2.
When I was in college, Halloween was always a big time for parties and such. During my junior year, I shared a house with a couple of my roommates who were some girls I had met and become good friends with during my freshman year. All of us had a bunch of our friends over to our place for a Halloween party, which was a total of about 20 or 30 people. Our house was small, but we did have 2 floors, but it was basically a typical old house you would find in a college neighborhood. Our university was pretty big, so I'm sure there were a bunch of other parties going on that night as well. We all wore costumes, and I recognized most of the people, even though they were wearing disguises. At about 10 p.m., most of us wanted to go out to the local bars in the college town. We all started to leave, but there was this one guy who I had no idea who he was. He was dressed as the Joker from Batman, but he had on a mask instead of painting his face, so
He dressed up like the Joker from Batman. Okay.
couldn't recognize him at all. I went over and asked him who he was, but he didn't answer me. He just kind of looked at me and then sort of walked away. There was music playing and other people talking, so maybe he didn't hear me, is what I thought. Eventually, I went upstairs to get my wallet and keys, and when I came down, most of the people were gone, aside from my roommates and I, who were all set to leave. We left the house and locked up. Then we were able to walk to the bars because they were only a few blocks away. I was out for maybe 2 or 3 hours. I remember I think it was a Thursday, and I had class the next morning, so I decided to go back a little after midnight. I didn't want to be out too late, and my roommate Liz and I walked back together. Our other roommates said they would come back later. When we got back, I unlocked the door and went inside first. As soon as I did, I heard a noise from inside. I realized quickly that it was coming from the inside of the closet we had just in front of the stairs. I walked over and opened.
Okay, someone is already in the closets. I wonder.
The door. When I did, I saw the guy who was dressed as a Joker, but his mask wasn't on now.
What the? The Joker. Okay, the Joker is in the closet. Okay.
I could clearly see that.
That's a little odd and creepy.
He was an older looking guy, like in his 50s, and I had no idea who he was. Before any of us had a chance to do anything, I slammed the door back and immediately ran away. Liz saw me running, and we both went outside. I called the police, and we began walking right down the street in the direction we had came from. We later went back when the police were there, and we were told that the man was now gone. Our entire house was searched, but they couldn't find him. I guess he had been able to get away. I'm not sure how he knew to go into our house, but apparently he had hidden in the closet while we were leaving. It's really creepy that he was hiding in our house alone the whole time we were gone.
It is a little creepy.
We must have caught him off guard when we got back, and he went to quickly hide in the closet. I'm glad I heard him, or else who knows what would have happened.
Number 3.
This story happened many years ago when I was a kid. I think I was 11 years old. I remember that for Halloween every year, I would usually go trick-or-treating with some friends, and then we would hang out afterwards. On this year, I was planning to trick-or-treat with my friend Tyler, and then he was going to come over and hang out at my house afterwards. My house was sort of big, and we had a cool basement with a big TV for playing video games or watching movies. We also talked to our friend Alex at school earlier in the day, and he was planning on coming over that night, but he had to go trick-or-treating with his sister, so he wasn't going with us. When the night arrived, Tyler and I went all around our neighborhood and beyond it to the surrounding neighborhoods. We were out until about 9, and we got tons of candy. Then we walked back to my house where my parents were. Tyler and I went down into the basement and played some video games while we waited for Alex to get there. This was before the days where every kid had a cell phone, so we didn't know exactly when he would be there. We left the back door to the basement unlocked for him to come through though. My parents were watching a movie upstairs, and we were down in the basement for about 20 minutes or so when we heard the back door open and shut. It was around the corner from the room we were in, and we assumed that it was Alex arriving. I called out to where we were and told him to join us. However, I didn't hear Alex respond. I got up and walked out to the hallway near the back door. Nobody was there. It was weird because I was so sure that I had heard the door open and shut. I went back and asked Tyler if he had heard the door, and he told me yes, he heard the exact same thing that I had. I looked all around the basement once more, but nobody was there. I thought maybe Alex had opened the door, but then decided to go around to the front or something, and I went back to playing video games with Tyler. Only 5 minutes or so after this, I thought I heard somebody walking around in the hallway, and then I heard another door open and shut. The basement living room area where we were was completely out of vision of the back door and hallway with some guest bedrooms in it. It sounded like one of the bedroom doors had shut. I got up and walked over, and when I did, I saw one of the doors was in fact shut. I couldn't quite remember exactly if it had been open or closed before, but I was pretty sure it was open.
What the?
I was sort of creeped out now and went back to tell Tyler about it. Just then,
We be creeped out too. Yep.
I heard the back door open and shut again. Then I heard Alex's voice. I walked out and saw him standing in the doorway. He asked me what was wrong when he saw the look on my face. I didn't say anything until all three of us were in the living room together, and then we told him all about what had happened. I decided I would go up and find my parents and tell them about everything, but before I did, we once again heard the back door open and then close.
What the?
I walked out and saw the bedroom door that had been shut was now wide open. I ran.
What the? Okay, the door that's open and shut opens up. Okay, that's a little creepy.
To the back door and locked it quickly, and then ran upstairs and found my parents. My dad came downstairs and looked around. Then he went outside. After doing so, he came back in and said he couldn't see anything that looked out of sorts.
What?
I never saw who was in the house that night, but it creeps me out to think about it every time.
It will creep me out too. Yep. Well. Okay, that's okay. That was something. Yeah. That was 3 Order Win Order Series by Nighttime Spooks. The link to the video will be in the description below. Go and check them out. And drop a like if you like. And comment down below if you want to see more series reactions like this one. And subscribe if you're new. And click the bell to be notified when I upload. And what? Bye.